What are some of the good things you remember about Grandpa? What did you like about him when you decided to get married?
Oh, I don't know. I went with him for quite a while. You know, a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He showered me with everything. Everything. Brought me all kinds of stuff for lunches at high school every noon. And, you know, candy and everything out of that place, you know. Gave me everything like that.
Do you remember any dates?
What do you mean,
Do
Dave?
you remember any times that you went out on dates?
Just we rode around in cars mostly then. It was bad times, you know. Went with bus.
Which was
Glenn
what's
says
husband?
he wasn't then. We were all going together.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to the movies?
Yeah, we went to movies and stopped by a little tavern that you can get chicken sometimes, you know. You could get chicken for a quarter back then, you know. Of course, quarters were scarce too.
Yeah.
But,
Were any of the old restaurants that you went to still around now?
well, there was an ice cream parlor we went to a lot, but it isn't there anymore. I used to get, you would never believe what I'd get in that restaurant. Green pepper sandwiches.
Oh no. Yeah.
Just put a lot of salt on them, and butter and sandwich.
Yeah.
My kids liked them too.
So you were married in 1930 what? 1934. And what was the day?
The 5th of May.
5th of May.
And your dad was born the following year, August the 2nd.
35. And you were 17?
When I was married.
Just before high school ended?
Yeah. I graduated though.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
Oh, after that. Just after, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
I think I went to school about 2 weeks or something when my cousin got married and she stayed and we started or something. A lot of them got married then.
See what you did? You had all
Uh-huh.
these people get married really young. So you were 17 and Grandpa was 22?
Yeah.
He was born in 1912, right? Okay, so his birthday was Groundhog
He was
Day.
5 years older than I was.
So his birthday was Groundhog Day.
Yeah, February 2nd.
1912.
I don't know, he was 5 years older.
And yours was January
25th.
25th, 1917.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how long had you and Grandpa dated before you got married?
Oh, I think I started going with him when I was about 14, something like that, but I had to go with my sister always,
When?
Glenn and Buzz.
And you met
Jim and
because Grandpa was friends
Well, he
with
lived right
Glenn's-
next door to us.
Who did?
Jim lived right next door to us.
Oh. And that was on what street again?
We lived on Guyan, but Guyan went like
In
this,
Ottawa.
and then on the corner of Nebraska and Guyan, they lived.
But so you met from your sister's sister Gwen's
Well, we
boyfriend,
ran
they
around
were
with
friends.
Esther and Jeannie, see, too.
They were in high school with you, right? Grandpa said
We
they-
all graduated at the same time, but they're older than I am.
Same year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Esther was 2.5 years, I think, older than me,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeannie was 2. Maybe they were 3.5 and 2. Esther lost out, I know, a year when they moved here from Kansas. But I started school when I was 5, see, so then I was always the youngest one in the class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 17 is pretty early to graduate.
Well, I was 17 the 25th of January and graduated in May.
And the other two sisters, Catherine and Margaret, were they older or younger?
Younger.
Okay, so they went through school later than you did.
Margaret was the youngest, and Catherine and Etta May went around together always. And they married brothers, Catherine and Etta May. First,
Oh, that's right. Andy, Ole, and
Joe Foley.
Joe, that's right. Okay.
Well, then he died and she remarried. Catherine remarried. You know, Grandma buried all her sons. Yeah, she did. Johnny and Neil and Jim and Esther's husband and Jeannie's husband and Catherine's husband. All
Boy, you have to be a woman in this family to live a while.
Well, she was just about 103 years old.
Yeah.
Very nice woman, very nice. If you can say that about your mother-in-law, you know.
That's a good thing.
She had all these children, and she treated me better than them even, I think. They would buy her really expensive, beautiful clothes and everything. She wanted me to make them for her. And I did make her a lot of things.
Well, I remember every time we came over, she was in a jumpsuit out in the garden.
Yeah.
Even in her late 90s, playing around in the garden.
She cooked in that lunchroom till she was in her 90s.
She still had a Scottish accent.
Oh yeah, very broad.
I didn't really notice it too
much.
much.
Mr. McGill was worse. See, they were both born in Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah, they were both married before.
How old were they when they came to America?
I don't know, just so. And Mrs. McGill had two sisters, and one died of cancer, and then the other one,
Esther
Aunt Esther,
Margaret.
little Aunt Esther,
Okay.
Catherine.
So Catherine was the one that died earlier.
Yeah, and she had two girls, and then her Mrs. McGill's sister, little Aunt Esther, she raised those girls. And then
Catherine's
when she,
girls?
yes,
She lived till about 90, right?
she was up in there.
88, 90, something like that. I remember meeting her at the family reunion.
Little one.
Yeah.
They were little people. Mr. McGill was real little too.
Yeah, I have that picture of him on the porch with his legs all hanging out.
With the handlebar mustache.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember much about my great-grandfather, John McGill? Did you know him well before he died?
No, I didn't know him too well.
Because he died in 1934, I think, the year before Dad was born.
We lived there with them. We lived there at the house where Esther
the first
did
year
now.
you were married?
Yeah, see, there was that lunchroom in front, and Jim worked there. So
What
did I.
What was the name of the restaurant?
McGill's.
That's just called McGill's?
Yeah.
And that's where Grandpa's sister Esther lives now, right? Just down the corner. I remember going there. That's
And
when great-grandma lived
Mr.
there.
McGill was real quiet. He was real quiet, and he had that real Scotch brogue. And see, Mrs. McGill went with his daughter. They were girlfriends, and that's how she started. He owned coal mines in Kansas.
And her name was Agnes?
Who?
The
Mrs.
friend
Yeah.
that great-grandma
Yeah.
knew?
Yeah.
And he was her father.
Yeah. He would just help around the restaurant cleaning up and things like that.
But she pretty much ran it.
Oh, Johnny did. Johnny and Neil, they did. But Grandma
Her two sons.
cooked. Hmm?
Two of her sons.
Yeah. Johnny's wife's name was Margaret. Grandma's name was Margaret. Young Margaret, Jim's sister, and me, Marguerite, all in the house at the same time before.
And great-grandma's father was John McMillan.
Yeah, that's Grandma's father.
And he came over later on?
No.
After great-grandma did?
I don't know if they came at the same time or not. I knew who they were when they lived on the west side, but he died then. And so I never heard her say anything about her mother. And really, the only thing I knew was from little Aunt Esther.